Now, we hinted this about 10 minutes ago because we're going to devote the last part of the programme to some music and some terrific music as well. The High Commission of Trinidad and Tobago has dedicated today to live performances, carnival costumes and inspirational speeches to celebrate what the United Nations has designated as World Steelpan Day. The drum has a rich history in Trinidad and Tobago and has become a key part of carnival culture. Perhaps for those who aren't familiar with how it sounds, I'm going to invite the man standing next to me, Dexter Marchan, just to give us a little bit more of a flavour of what we're about to talk about. On you go. It's a wonderful sound, and it sounds great in this radio studio as well, actually. It echoes beautifully around this room. That was Dexter Marchan. More from him to come in a moment. But Raymond Butler is here from the High Commission of Trinidad and Tobago. Raymond, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Delighted to see you.
Thanks for having us.
Chandrika and Samuel alongside you.
Hi, how are you?
Let's talk about the sort of the mechanics of what we've just heard. Describe these drums and how they look and how they are played.
Well, what they are oil drums that were cut and they are chromated and they were made into notes. And that forms that very beautiful, deep, rich sound that you're hearing that would have come all the way back from 1940 when it was created and evolved into what you're seeing now. It's a very simple instrument. It's the last acoustic instrument that was invented since the 20th century. At least it was the only one for the 20th century. I don't know if anyone was done in the 21st century.
And to get really proficient at playing them, what's the secret?
Well, the interesting thing about it is it has influenced the school system in England and all over the world, is the simplicity of it. Because you play note by note, unless you're very skilled like Dexter and you can play with 4 sticks. But you play note by note. So you can walk into with a steel pan and within a day, you can be playing an entire sound. And that's what attracts children to it and everyone. The simplicity. It's not chords like a piano. It's not chords like a guitar. It doesn't take all that time to develop that level of skill.
Dexter, it seems sensible to come to you again on that subject. So Raymond talked about the fact that you use 4 sticks and most people wouldn't. Explain that for us.
Well, I don't actually use 4 sticks, but you can use 4 sticks. The 4 sticks would resonate basically when you want to enhance your playing with extra chords and stuff. I was just playing single melodic lines, but that comes with practice too, you know. So using the 4 sticks is like if you really want to enhance, sometimes you're playing melodies, and this is the extreme skill players, and don't really have much people like that in the world, but they actually, with just like a pianist who would use their left hand to hold chords and the melody holding the right chords, you have to do that with the sticks.
The sticks themselves, I mean, what's the cushioned end? Right,
so this is the magic. So because it's a metal instrument, the sticks, now my sticks is made out of aluminum, but is generally wood. And the tip is made out of rubber, and it's supposed to be rubber which is bouncy. So in order to get those notes playing, you got to use left right motions, and that is and you got to hold the sticks properly. You got to use the right control. So all these resonate as part of the fundamentals of playing the instrument. Now, if you don't do that, you wouldn't get that song. So for instance, I mean, you can hold your ears. If I hold the stick not properly, so I holding it wrong, if I play the instrument wrong, that's the result you're going to get. So now you're going to hold it properly. So you're holding it between your index and your thumb. You're holding it very loosely but firmly, closing in your rest of fingers to have a control on it. And when you use a left right motion, is a difference. So there are fundamentals of playing. And when you use this, even with the youngest of kids, when you use that same concept and you introduce that to kids, within 5 minutes, I can assure you, because I'm witness to that, working with kids, young kids in schools, workshops, primary school kids, maybe 7, 8, 9, that concept alone in 5-10 minutes time, they adapt it and they are playing the instrument.
Which is fantastic, isn't it? Because, I mean, kids are notoriously impatient. So, if you can get good at something in a fairly short space of time, it's going to win them round.
And that's according to Mr. Gerard, Mr. Butler.
Yeah.
That's how simple the instrument is.
Well, you were nodding approvingly at all of that. And that essence of being able to play them quite quickly and therefore get the joy out of it is part of the story here, right?
Yeah, because what we had is two gentlemen, Mr. Frank Rollox and Gerald Forsyth, who introduced it to schools in England. And they had about 30 schools that were involved, teaching children how to play pan and keeping some of them out of trouble and things like that, because it's a community-based type activity. And it formed an identity for the diaspora, which would have came here under the Windrush generation when we were under the United Kingdom and colonies and evolved into the Commonwealth. So essentially, over the years now, it's Notting Hill, which is now the mainstream that has evolved as another form of identity for the diaspora, because it's not just Trinidad and Tobago, it's the entire Caribbean it colors. So what we have seen here is an evolution of an acoustic instrument. In the words of a calypsonian, David Rudder, out of a muddy pond, 10,000 flowers bloomed.
That's rather lovely. And I was noticing that the flag of Trinidad and Tobago is flying proudly at the front of your steel pan drums. Let me bring my guests in, they were anticipating your arrival. Chandrika, by all means, come in, ask a question of whoever.
Okay.
Tell us your secret steel pan drum skills, whatever you wish.
Well, two quick questions. As a historian, you mentioned about 1940. But surely there must be a heritage, there must be a tradition of some of this happening in the Caribbean for it to, or did it just evolve? Because it was, intrinsically what I find wonderful about this is that it is music for the masses. In terms of access, they're not expensive input. If you have to take piano lessons, that's, straight away that becomes a really hugely expensive proposition for many, many families. So I'm just trying to get a little bit at the roots of this, how...
It started from poverty.
Yes,
it started from
exactly.
At a time when we were, persons were in depressed areas in Trinidad and Tobago. And that has a tendency to create art and culture. Sometimes when you have a lot of time on your hands, you create. And from then, as Dexter would explain, they used tin pans, they used different tambu bamboo, different type of instruments to make that type of sound until they discovered that the oil drum, and it's interesting that you have the economic, because we were oil-based under the United Kingdom and colonies. Yeah. And it's interesting that has an intrinsic link to the culture. And it shows you how nothing in this world is disassociated with the other.
Absolutely. We don't have the time, but I could give you so many examples of something similar in my part of the world, in the Indian subcontinent.
Yes.
And again, as you said, from poverty, music of the masses, but again, the contextualization. So it's fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. Samuel.
Well, first of all, it's an absolutely beautiful instrument, right? It's got seemingly the best of percussionism and almost like a piano type vibe in the sound to it. So it's a really great thing. So how did we get to this being a Trinidadian phenomenon to us celebrating with the UN World Steelpan Day? Did the diaspora play a role in popularizing it? How has it gained global recognition?
Well, actually in Britain, we have 62 bands in the British Association of Steel Bands. And that has been around for almost 34 years. Wow. Switzerland has about 50 small bands that play, small players. France has a panorama of about 24 bands. So it is global in that sense. And that is how it started to spread. And as I said, it came up with the Windrush generation. Yeah. And then after that, it evolved into what we see now as Notting Hill Carnival. Taspo would have been the very first band where a collection of the best players came up in 1951 and influenced all the bands that we have up here.
I've forgotten who mentioned the piano in this context, but one of you did. I mean, clearly, if you go to the world of pianos, people will look to the Steinway as being the best in the world. In the world of violins, it would be the Stradivarius, I guess. Is there a steel pan drum equivalent?
Well, yes, I would say once you have a Howman Guppy Brown, or you have a Lloyd Gay, or you have a Bertie Marshall. So those are some of the pan names that the soloists gravitate to. You have young pan makers coming up like Augustus. So when you have Mapo, Richardson, so when you have some of these names now, so just like in any other instrument, it have the tops, and then it have the people who coming after and learning. But they make good quality instruments too, because, as I say, is starting to go global. In Japan now, they have a lot of pan makers in Japan. Switzerland has a lot of pan makers. So
really?
everybody now is getting on board.
Today, finally, Raymond, lots of events here as well, obviously, as well as no doubt in Trinidad. What's lying ahead?
Well, what happens, we have 3 bands that will be at 42 Belgrave Square. We are shutting down Belgrave Square. We were given permission to shut down Belgrave Square. It is the brainchild of the High Commissioner, Mr. Vishnu Dan Paul, who's representing Trinidad and Tobago in a diplomatic mission. And we'll have 3 bands, which is CSI, the Caribbean Steel International, and they are out of Fulham and Hammersmith, and they would have influenced a lot of disabled youths and gave them that opportunity to be able to play and to belong. We also have the Melodian Steel Orchestra. Melodian Steel Orchestra is originally from Arima, Trinidad and Tobago. They would have performed in Buckingham Palace, 15 occasions. They would have done the Christmas concert, and then they were at Westminster Abbey. And lastly, we have Ebony, who were here since 1969. And would have performed in numerous events.
Right.
They would be there.
They are all warming up as we speak.
Warming up.
Thank you so much for coming.
I want to thank you for having us.
Thanks to Raymond.
On behalf of the Trinidad and Tobago London High Commission, I want to thank you very much.
Well, it's our pleasure. Dex, I'll come back to you in a moment because you're going to play us out. You're not done yet. Chandrika, thank you so much for your company throughout the last 2.5 hours. Likewise, Samuel, to you.
Okay.
We've got a minute or so of the programme left. I'm going to say no more. Dex, it's all yours. Play as you wish.